Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Restoration with Vic. So before we get started with this video, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We drop a new video every Monday at 7 p.m. So for today's episode, as you can see, we're going to be working on a pair of Harbor Blue Air Jordan 3's. As you can see, he's going to need a good deep clean using a Rejuvenator to get this mud off, and we're going to give him a full midsole repaint, but instead of using the traditional paintbrush, I'm going to show you guys how to do a full midsole repaint using an airbrush. So with that being said, let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is give the shoe a proper deep clean. We're going to be using Rejuvenator's 4-ounce 3-brush kit, a collapsible bowl, and a microfiber towel. All this stuff can be purchased at Rejuvenator.com. Make sure you use my promo code VIC15 to save an extra 15% at checkout. So let's get started with the all-purpose brush. Alright, so before we get started with the deep cleaning process, we're going to insert our Rejuvenator shoe trees. Adjust them to size first, and insert. Alright, so now we go ahead and get started with the deep cleaning process using the all-purpose brush. Alright, so the cleaning process is complete. Check these out. We use a sole brush for the soles, all-purpose brush for the uppers. Now we're going to go ahead and dry these next to a fan, come back, strip the midsoles. Alright guys, so we're back after letting the shoe dry. The next thing we're going to do is strip the midsoles using the good old classic acetone and cotton balls. We're going to strip the paint, come back, and show you guys how to do a midsole repaint using an airbrush. Alright, so I'm going to get started by taping up the uppers. The only brand I recommend using is Scotch Clean Removal Tape. Alright, so the midsoles are fully stripped, check them out. The next thing we're going to do is remove the tape and retape, and the reason why we're going to do that is because when I acetone the paint off, it weakens the tape. So to ensure no paint slips under the uppers, we're going to just go ahead and retape. Another tip is you want to make sure there's no tape on the midsoles, because after the paint job's complete and it's time to remove the tape, the paint job will come off with the tape. Alright, so the shoes are finally stripped, uppers are taped up, we're ready to get started with the repaint process. For this job, we're going to be using a compressor, a heat gun, a mask, Angela's Too Thin, Angela's Flat White Paint, a strainer, and of course an airbrush. This brand I'm using is an Iwata Eclipse. I bought this on Amazon for 120 bucks. It works great. So with that being said, let's get started. We're going to be mixing Angelus Too Thin with Angelus Flat White paint to thin the paint out so the paint can flow nicely through the airbrush. Whenever you're using an airbrush, I always recommend using a mask just because the fumes are unhealthy, and plus you don't want to have white boogers. When airbrushing a midsole, it has the same concept as using a regular paintbrush. For one, you want to make sure you do thin coats and not heavy coats. Heavy coats tend to get messy and runny, and for wearability purposes, it's going to crack a lot easier and faster. I recommend using a heat gun in between paint coats to help quicken the drying process. Make sure you're always moving the airbrush and not focusing in one area, because that can also lead to a bad paint job. Alright, so the repaint job is complete. Go ahead and check that out. The next thing we're going to do is spray in with the matte finish. After letting the finisher dry for about an hour, we're ready to remove the tape. But before we do that, since we airbrushed it, we're going to be using an X-Acto knife to cut along the line in between the midsole and tape. The reason why we're going to be doing that is to prevent the paint job from coming up with the tape. Alright guys, that's going to wrap it up on this restoration on these Harbor Blue Air Jordan 3's. Check out that big old difference. No more mud, repainted midsoles using an airbrush. I personally still like the paintbrush a lot better, but this is another option to go if you're not a fan of the brush. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and learned something, and if you have any questions, please email me at vick@resuminair.com. As always, thank you guys for watching. See you guys next Monday.